Now here's a little story that most of the generation nowadays haven't got a clue about. But this is how it was at one time. The old outhouse. Nobody had indoor plumbing, no bathroom indoors. It was outdoors. Mostly out on these rural areas, out on these farms, all across America, and as far as these outhouses go, all across the world. This is nothing new. And it didn't matter where you come from. You could be a big farmhouse, big family, all across this country, living good, working a big farm. You could be rich, big plantation owner. It didn't matter. Or even just dirt poor in these mountains, like most of us was. But God made us all the same. We all have to go to the bathroom. This was the bathroom in its day, the old outside outhouse. Now nowadays, you got this take for granted, a bathroom. Nice warm bathroom, bathtub. But it wasn't that way back then in them days. Telephones and electricity come into these houses a lot sooner than plumbing did. And I can remember growing up, my grandmother, an old outhouse. Most of these outhouses were just a few yards away from behind the house. They looked something like this. All different styles, some better than others. And you always get ready to run from some of the experiences I had growing up my grandma's. You never knowed what was in them old outhouses. And all across this country, these outhouses were everywhere. This was their bathroom. And inside, you had your choice for toilet paper, an old magazine usually, old Sears and Roebuck or Montgomery Ward's, or an old magazine. But them old catalogs are too slick. I never did like them. I like newspapers. And a lot of people, they said they used corn cobs, but I never did attempt to use none of them. Either an old magazine or newspaper is my preference. And at our good day of eating a good old healthy meal of soup beans, fried taters, and some cornbread, nature calls. And you got to run up there to these outhouses. That's happened time after time. And when you get in there, you got to check for spiders. They're bad to make webs around these old things. And you get spider bit on these things, you know what I'm talking about. And the biggest thing you had to watch out for in the summertime was these old waspers. They're flying around in there. I've got stung a couple times off of them. They don't like you being in there. That's just the way it was in these old outhouses. And the worst thing about it, I've even had a snake crawl across my feet one time. Well, good thing my pants was down, because I'd have filled them full if I didn't. This will scare the crap out of you, I'm telling you. And I'm sure this has happened to other people too. Old black snake coming in the outhouse. And in the wintertime, it's cold. You didn't have no waspers, spiders, and snakes in the wintertime. But man, it was cold. And you had to make your way up there to that old outhouse. It was a cold trip. You tried to do your business as quick as you could. But if you're small, the adults took care of it. They took care of their business during the day. But when you're small, us kids, especially with at Mamaw, they'd be a gang of us all together. Mamaw babysitting on the weekend. And you lay there in the bed and you had to go to the bathroom. Well, you had your choice. You'd either get Mamaw up to go get you, take you up there, or you use what we call an old slop jar. And there's different styles, all kinds of different ones. But that's what we used. and the next morning you had to go up there and empty it if you used it. Well, I guess it's where people talk about people being so poor they don't have a pot to piss in. That's where that saying comes from. And the kids, brothers and sisters, usually took care of their little brothers and sisters because you couldn't let a little one go to the outhouse by themselves. Worst come to worst, they could fall in, or a snake get them, or get bit or something. So you always stayed up there with them. But the old outhouses are a thing of the past. But don't get me wrong, they're still being used around the world. Even in these mountains in some places, people still use them in these old houses. That's the way it is. But nowadays, you can just run a good old hot bathtub when you're tired after a hard day's work and relax. Back in them days, you didn't have that. No indoor plumbing. This was your bathtub. Out there hanging on the side of the house or the smokehouse, out back. This is what you used. And if you're lucky, you had an old hand pump for water in the house. But most people didn't have that. They'd have to go pack it somewhere else. They'd have a hand pump outside if they was lucky over a well. Especially in these little old camps, the community would share a pump. Most of these out places in the rural areas and farms had little spring houses they'd get their water from, or a well, or just an old spring coming out of a ridge, out of a rock. I've hauled many a water up Mama's house out of these old springs. That's just the way it is. But you still had to pack it up to the house. A lot of kids done a lot of packing water to the house all the time. For cooking, cleaning. And after your man come home, hard day's work, regardless if he worked in the woods, the mines, the farm, they'd heat it up on the stove and fill up his old wash tub. Old galvanized wash tub. And you'd take a bath like this. And the whole family would take turns taking baths. Sometimes they'd change the water, sometimes they wouldn't. And the next day, you use the same old tubs to wash clothes around the house. Packing that water up there and washing them clothes. When you're done, rinse it out, hang it back out there on the wall on the smokehouse or the barn. Now these old families, they had big families. That's just the way it was in these mountains. Big families, 10, 12 kids or more. And they lived hard, but they lived a happy life. Some of them were real poor, but they made it. They survived. And just times gone by. This is before any kind of social help. Now, these times are way gone. But the older generations, the baby boomers, and me, I can remember this growing up. But this is a thing of the past. But don't get me wrong, it still goes on today in some areas. And we just take these bathrooms and indoor plumbing for granted. But these people, they know what they was doing. They had a hard life, but it was simple. It just required some labor. So I want to thank y'all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little video of just how things used to be in these mountains. So, thanks for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.